subbing for Iggy for the next 2 weeks on his Radio 6 show. I put together really good shows, went to London and finished the voice work on them. And that starts next Friday, so you got to check those out. So you can hear all of my radio shows for free. If you go to henryrollins.com, you can see my playlist for every radio show I do every week. What's tonight, Sunday? I'm on the radio right now in LA coming out of the computer. And so you can hear what I'm listening to. It's free. I buy new records all the time, 1 to 3 records a day. And so I'm always like listening to new music from every corner of the record store. I listen to kind of everything, not a lot of country western, unless it's Hank. But pretty much everything else. If it's noisy, rude, and pretentious, I'm probably into it. So,
Amoeba Records?
Which one?
Amoeba
Amoeba's a great place, yeah. No, I go whenever I can. So let's see. What is your most special tattoo and my least favorite? My favorite tattoo is this one, Black Flag logo. It's the first one I ever got. And I just moved to LA. I was 20 years old. I was 150 pounds of anger. And I went to a tattoo shop, which is still there. It's at Hollywood and Vine. And I drive by it all the time. And I walked in there with a Black Flag flyer and a $20 bill, my last $20 bill. As soon as I joined Black Flag, I went there with $200, and the band took my money. They said, "We need this." I was like, Anyway, I went in there with $20 and the Black Flag flyer. I said, "I want this on my arm." And the guy made a thing, put it on my arm. I said, "How much?" He said, "How much money do you have?" I said, $20. He said, $20. And so this has endured a lot of weathering. And if you look at the last bar, you see a little stripe where the ink has been torn out. And I never got it repaired because that was 1985 or 6. I was coming out of one of my own talking shows, which had about 12 people at it, somewhere in the Midwest. And I'm walking with a promoter to his car with the other 12 people at the show. So I'm going to sleep on his couch that night. And I hear screaming in the parking lot. It's a woman. And it's not like I'm having a good time screaming. It's like there's something wrong with it. And everyone went, "What's up with that?" So I go running at the screaming sound, and I encounter a woman being assaulted by a man. And so I neutralized the guy by, I grabbed him by his ears, and I was smashing his face into the trunk of his car, as you do. And then he was clawing me and scratching me, so he scratched me on my face and neck, and he clawed through that tattoo. And eventually I have him, and I'm punching him, and my thumb came apart. And I looked into his headlight. He'd crawled into his car in the fetal position, and my thumb was down here. And I went, "Well, I have an idea of how to fix it, but it's probably really gonna hurt." And I went, 1, 2, 3, and I put it back in. And the pain shot up my arm, and the woman was okay. So I said, "Do you mind if I leave? Because when the cops come, I don't want to be responsible for what I've just done to this guy, and I gotta go." And she said, "Sure." And so I never got that repaired because I never wanted to forget that. The least favorite tattoo I have, I don't have any. To me, they're just like freckles now. They're just on me. I don't even think about them. I mean, they've been on me for so long, Reagan era. And so they were put on me when I was young, and now they're fading like the sailor's tattoos in the Norman Rockwell painting. And so they're fading kind of like me. And so I have no least favorite ones, but that's the one that means the most. If all the rest of them fell off, I'd be happy if that one stayed. Yay. So there's that. Here's an interesting question, which maybe needs a little bit of introduction. There was a writer. His name was Hubert Selby Jr. He wrote a very famous book called The Last Exit to Brooklyn. It got made into a movie. He also wrote The Demon, Song of the Silent Snow, which is a collection of short stories. He wrote Requiem for a Dream. That became a very well-known movie. I read his books in 1986, and they had a profound effect on me, and to the degree where I stopped writing. I couldn't, I was too intimidated. And so the only way to break through that was to meet him and talk to him. I knew he lived in Los Angeles. I looked him up in the white pages, and there he was. 6537614 was his phone number. And so I didn't have a car, but my girlfriend did. And I said, "Can you take me into Hollywood and hang out for 2 hours while I talk to this guy?" She said, "You need to call him first." And so I cold called Hubert Selby on the phone. My heart was in my throat. I said, "Mr. Selby, do not hang up. My name is Henry. I'm a young writer. I've been reading your books, and I'm trying to write, and I'm so shut down by your writing, I can't write anymore. I feel like I should just like serve you food and go get your water. Can I meet you and talk to you?" And he went, "Sure, come over." And I said, when? He goes, now. And so I went to Hubert Selby's house with my hardcover editions of his books that I could barely afford and 2 of my dopey early books. And I gave him the books, and we talked for a couple of hours, and we became friends. And the biggest shot in the arm I've ever received in my life, I'm back in my small place with my girlfriend, Andrea. We're still friends to this day. And the phone rings. It's Hubert Selby. So I gave him my number in case he ever wants to get in touch, And I knew he'd never read the books. And so I hate to be vulgar, but I'm going to quote him. He calls me on the phone. Hey, Henry, it's Cubby. That was his nickname. It's Cubby. I've been reading your books. You're a really good fucking writer. You know that? And he starts reading me parts of my own book back to me over the phone. I like this part. And he starts reading me to me. And I still feel that shot in my arm 31 years later. And we started hanging out. And I was friends with Hubert Selby until his death. And eventually, at his funeral, delivered the memorial speech. And he would read, I'd give him my books or unpublished work, and he'd read all of it. And one day I'm sitting there with another writer named Don, and he goes, you guys, you young guys, you always get it wrong. You put your balls in the way of the writing. Get your balls out of the way of the writing. Tell the story. And he was basically saying, get your ego out of the way. Stop trying to be the good guy when you weren't the good guy. And that was a profound lesson. And it really chastened me and made me try to be braver and better as a writer, to get out of the way of what the impact of the story should be. Because if you read Hubert Selby, that's a guy who got out of the way of the story. And that's why those books will break you to pieces. With words, Selby could break you like dropping a plate on the ground and stepping on it, because he got out of the way. And whenever I'd say, hey, that's a great book, he would never claim responsibility for the book. He would say the creator writes it, and it just comes through me. I just tell the story. He would take no credit for it, but every once in a while, he would kind of gas on his own writing. And Requiem for a Dream, the first sentence of the book is, Harry locked his mother in the closet. And it's an amazing read. And he goes like, Harry locked his mother in the closet. I love that. And I'm like, me too. And he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. And he was basically kind of like my dad, and just an amazing guy. And so let's see, could you elaborate on that? Yes, I think I did. And you see my notes, Selby, balls. Because that's what he said, get your balls out of the way. Basically, get your macho ego out of the way of the writing. Very, very good lesson. Okay, here's I apologize for my eyes. When did you question whether or not you were on the path life had in store for you, or did you carve your own, or none of the above? I graduated from high school in 1979. I barely crawled out of high school. I was not a good student. I didn't like it. And so I immediately went into the minimum wage working world, like 40 to 60 hours a week. I've been working since I was young. So it was just more of that. And I reconciled myself to a life of swollen feet, top ramen noodles, no sleep, stuffy apartments, 5 records, and a busted record player. Basically, I was going to be a lyric in a Bruce Springsteen story. I was just going to be like the guy who marries Wendy behind the dynamo, and it's just like Americana death. And so I said, life's going to be very hard for me, so I'm going to have these crap jobs, and my future's kind of bleak, so I better be really tough. At the same time, I knew I had something. I didn't know what it was, but I was weirder than all my friends, and I had something, and I just didn't know it was a plug that I needed to plug in. And I met the band Black Flag. They were my favorite band, and I just thought, like, I should be the singer. I mean, look at that guy. He's great, but damn, man, the singer's head should be coming off singing those songs. It should be, painful for the singer. It should, leave him, with a limp and an eye going this way. And so one night, I jumped on stage with them and sang one of their 90-second songs called Clocked In. It was a favor they did me. I went to go see them in New York. And I said, can you play Clocked In for me? Because I got to go to work in 5 hours. And they said, this is for Henry because he's got to go to work. It's called Clocked In. And I looked at the singer, and he looked at me and went, here, you sing it. And I jumped on stage, and I went, wow, I'm going to be in Black Flag for 90 seconds. And I get to do this song like I think it should be done, which fire coming out of your mouth and the audience being knocked over. So I did it, and I'll never forget. This is like 3 in the morning. The audience is like, who's this guy? And I look from side to side like a quarterback before the snap. And all the members of Black Flag were looking at me going like, whoa. And so I gave the mic back to Dez. I said, well, see ya. And I jumped in my 1968 VW Fastback and hauled ass to Washington, took a shower in the work sink at Haagen-Dazs, and put on my apron and started scooping ice cream. And the phone rang, and it was a member of Black Flag who had found the number of Haagen-Dazs. And he said, we liked what you did on stage the other night. How about you come up here and audition? Dez doesn't want to sing anymore. He wants to play rhythm guitar. And I looked at my apron covered in chocolate and my scoop and my $3.75 an hour life, and I realized I had absolutely nothing to lose. So I took an Amtrak train at 6 a.m. the next day. I met the band in the East Village at a restaurant called Odessa. And I said, so what are we doing, really? So we're going to go to a practice place. We're going to play the set twice. You're going to sing every song. I go, but I don't know the lyrics. They said, just yell and scream. We just want to see what you do. And so we set up the gear, and I literally stood in front of the band holding a microphone, and I pinched my arm because I thought I was dreaming. And they're still looking at me. And Greg Ginn said, so what song do you want to play? I said, Police Story. And Greg Ginn reared up the guitar and came down on the first notes of Police Story. And I almost fainted from excitement. So we played the set twice, like 45 minutes twice. And they said, now we're going to have a band meeting. So I expect they're going to go away for hours and pick up the sacred skull and light the candle. And they come out like a minute and a half later and said, okay, you're in. And I said, in what? They said, Black Flag. I said, who? They said, you. I said, me? They said, yeah. Because I was in utter disbelief. I said, wait a minute. I'm the singer in Black Flag? Like that just happened? They said, yes. Pack your gear, say goodbye to your friends, sell your stuff. Here's the tour itinerary. Here's the lyrics. Meet us as soon as you can. I said, to do what? It's like, to learn the songs, go to LA and sing on the first ever Black Flag album. I said, that's going to be me? They said, do you want this job or not? I said, this is really happening? They said, we'll see you soon. So I got on the train with this passel of lyrics, and I quit my job, and my boss said, why are you quitting? I'll give you $4.75 an hour instead of like $4.25. I said, it's not the money. I love my job. You're a great guy. You got me my first apartment. We're still friends to this day. Whenever I see him, I almost start crying. I'm so grateful. And I said, look, Steve, this is what happened. This is my shot. And he totally got it. He said, it is your shot, but it's not going to work out. So in a few weeks when you come back, you can have your old job back. And I said, hey, you never know. I might need it. And I called Ian Mackay, my best friend, on the phone. He said, where have you been? I said, I went to New York. Here's what happened. And it's the only time I've ever asked anyone advice. And I said, what do you reckon, Ian? He said, are you kidding? This is going to be great. And I got in his car, and he took me to the bus station, and I got a bus ticket for Detroit, and I still have that ticket. And that's where I met up with Black Flag. And I get out of the bus, and I go to a bar they're going to be playing at that night. I beat him there. And so I walk into this bar. It's called Clutch Cargo, I think. It's a small venue, with my duffel bag. And the woman behind the bar says, can I help you? And it's the first time I ever told someone with a declarative statement, I am the singer in Black Flag. And I looked at her, I said, I'm the singer in Black Flag. And I didn't even believe it. She said, great, you want something to drink? I said, Coca-Cola, please. And she gave me one of those miserable, without bubbles, shots of Coca-Cola. And I sat there for 3 hours waiting for the band. And that was the corner I turned in my life. And that is why I'm here now. And that was 36 years ago. And a lot of, events. So I've had a very interesting life. But basically, I was very, very lucky. But I had something that seemed to work. And so my life I've carved out something, but the opportunity to carve it out was given to me because I brazenly jumped up on stage and took the mic from the guy and sang. And I don't know where the lesson is in that, but I think I would have been a very frustrated person in my life had I not had the opportunity to just output with the velocity, the intensity, and the degree with which an audience allows me to, because without an audience, I don't exist. And that's why when I said tonight that the worst show of this tour was tonight's show, because it's all over until Road Manager Ward, Angel, and I get to go do this one more time, and we always hope will be one more time. It's only the audience that allows me to do all this stuff. And so that's why I'm kind of obsessed with all of you, because you allow me to make a noise in the forest when I fall. So that's that. And so that's all the questions. I will be getting up in about 5 hours to go to the airport and get on a Delta flight. I hope the wings don't fall off. I've had bad experiences with that airline. And so hopefully our paths will cross again. Thank you for not only enduring this show, which was 2 hours, 17 minutes, and 56 seconds. I keep track of these things. But also this went on and on and on because I like to tell you stories. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you next time. And until then, good night and take care of yourselves. Thanks.